Alright, today we're working on one of my favorite things, which is the interior. So one of the reasons I bought this car is because the interior, it wasn't half bad. I mean, obviously it's used, but not everything needs replaced. The seats are decent, the door panels are decent, the dash is decent. What really needed was this in the middle. So here is the other piece that we're missing, was this. This just never was there at all. But we're gonna start with the shifter console. So pretty much everything tucks underneath this. And these wires come up everything above. Sits just like that. I'll plop these over right here. Now, there's no AC parts on this car, so there's no real point in plugging any of this stuff in. But you know, I'll plug in what I can. Still have it light up, right? One thing we need to do before we can move on to installing the center gauges is this new oil pressure line. So I believe it's 73 and down. They actually had a actual oil pressure line with real oil going into the car and reading oil pressure, and then they went to electronic the next year. It could be 74, I don't remember right now, but we're gonna keep it stock the way it was. This needed addressed anyway, so here we are fixing it. We'll install this, run it through the firewall, and then run it to the gauge in the back. So here is the back of the cluster, and you can see basically it's just a little oil line that runs the back of the gauge. So this is an old one that's been cut. We'll take that out and we'll put the new one in. Oh no. One thing I do want to do before I button this up for good, besides the oil line, is I want to make sure all the gauges work and that we're good to go on that. We're going to put it like that, and then we're going to start the car, check for leaks, make sure all the gauges are working, and then if that's the case, we can put it all back together and button it up. Oil pressure's working. Oil pressure's working. Battery gauge is working. Temp gauge is at 100, which it should be. Probably almost out of gas. Pretty sure that works since all that's new and it worked before. So now we just have to make sure there's no leaks. This side looks good. So it looks like we do have a leak on this end coming out of the hose. I'm always hesitant to really wrench down on these things, but you know what? You do what you gotta do, right? So here's something interesting. If you look at that fitting, it's just like a reverse cone down inside. That's all it is. And if you look at this doesn't seem like it's the right end. I mean, I would assume that this brass part is supposed to go down into the cone and seal around the top edge. This, on the other hand, just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like it's flared out instead of flared in. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem like it's the correct thing. So I'm gonna cut the end off of it and hope that works a little better. If not, I have other parts that I can probably thread onto this and make it work. But you know, reproduction stuff from a Corvette company, and this is what you get. All right, we're finally with no leaks. So what I had to do was I had an extra one of these in a different oil pressure line kit. I took this brass fitting off, basically pounded out the the brass or the copper line, and then basically attached it to that, crimped it, and then put it on. So it all works now. We're all good, but I'll tell you what, right out of the box, it should have 2 of these, and it did not. So I don't know if I had the wrong fitting in the engine, which I bought that one for that. But again, aftermarket stuff just drives me nuts. It just never works right the first time. All right, we're making some progress. It's very slow, but the next thing, since I put the center console in, it looks way better, is we're gonna clean up this side. I did have to repair the courtesy lights. That was a really fun project. But one thing we're gonna do is take out these nasty floor mats. There was one on the other side. They was about the same condition. These are red mats. I mean, maybe they were ox blood at one point, but they're at least faded to red. They're stained, they're gross, and they're gonna go in the trash. And weirdly enough, I had a set of these black mats in my parts. And don't they just look so much better than those nasty red ones? And believe it or not, the carpet, after I vacuum it up, will actually clean up fairly decently. I mean, again, driver quality car, driver quality carpet. If you wanted to change it, you know, that's your prerogative. I think this car would look really good with black interior. All right, I think I'm done in the engine bay. So a couple of additions from the last time I made a video. I got a new air filter, base, and top. I kept this pretty simple, just repainted the Elderbrock one I had. Someone else will probably want to make this the way they want it, and I don't feel like I need to spend $200 on valve covers and an air cleaner just to have somebody yank it out. As you guys saw before, new radiator cap, good fan clutch, new water pump, new radiator hoses upper and lower, new thermostat, new radiator seals, so shouldn't have any cooling issues on this at all. I added a horn in here because the original one did not work. And if you check this out, the horn now works. Let's see. Oh, the other thing I did is I took the rear bowl off of the back of the carburetor. It was full of garbage, and that's why it was kind of leaking the last time you guys saw this run. Runs much better now with everything cleaned out. But like you guys saw in the last videos, all the wiring is new, the whole cooling system's new. New gaskets in the exhaust. I mean, there's probably so many things that I'm just not remembering right now. And then the most important part is the new transmission with the Z-bar and the clutch and all that kind of stuff. So here we have, ta-da-da, the interior done as much as I am going to do it. So my goal was really good driver quality, and I feel like that's what I got. So we basically reused everything with the exception of a few things. So the floor mats were garbage, threw those out, put in the black ones. I did add a horn button because it did not have those. The radio access panels on the sides of the console, I had to grab those for my parts. The same with the rear view mirror, the same with the sun visors. I mean, the interior was fairly complete, but there's just a lot of stuff that was just completely gone. So in here in the back, I had to add this piece right here that was missing before, but everything else is all there and in fairly decent shape. Again, good driver quality, and most importantly, the water temp, fuel, oil pressure, and all that kind of stuff, all those gauges work. So that's the main thing we're looking for. But yeah, I think that's where we want it to be. I still need to put these door handles in. I still haven't done that. But I've been putting it off because I want to make a video on it, and I haven't yet done it. So you might see that in a later video, but it's definitely way more of a car than it used to be. Just when you think you're almost done, just when you think it's gonna be easy, all I have left to do is the door handles. Of course, it's not. This took me an hour to get off. So usually these door cranks, they have the little clip in the back. Well, that clip was gone, and this door handle, which is door window winder, it's aluminum, was fused onto this, which is the little nub that the handle goes on. You can see, put a little mark in it, but I was able to get the window crank off without damaging it, which in order to pull the door handles, you need to get the door panel off. To get the door panel off, you gotta take these off. And to get these off, well, you gotta take those off. And of course that added an extra hour. And the sad part, this other side is exactly the same. Well, you always wonder what surprises are gonna meet you inside of a door, and we have quite a few. So the big thing is, look at all this glass. They didn't bother to clean this out when they put a new window in it. You know, a couple little nubbers from the glass. That should be fun to vacuum up. Next is gonna be one of the main reasons why these door handles fail, because the spring breaks. This one looks like it's just off. Found a clip, but check this out. Somebody put a door handle in this car, and they didn't put any bolts or anything in there. They just kind of let it sit. So that's exciting. So we're gonna replace that. Wow, they just set it in there and they were done. That was it. Well, let's see what other kind of goodies we can find in here. There's gotta be, all right, so that right there is the bottom hit pivot of a door handle. That's part of the door handle. I don't know what they were doing. I don't understand. All right, I figured out the issue. Some genius JB welded the door poles onto, or the crank handles onto these. So yeah, that's why they were so stuck. JB weld. All right guys, it has come time to sell this Corvette. So you guys have gotten probably, I don't know, it's 5 or 6 whole videos off of it, and it is now for sale. So I've had quite a few people express interest in it. I'm not really gonna go into details or prices or anything on this video. If you're interested, send me an email, it's down below. We can talk about price, etc., etc. So this will be the end of this video, end of this car, and I want to talk about if this was worth buying the car sight unseen. That was kind of the whole deal. Was the car worth buying it sight unseen? I'd never done it before and made videos on it. So my answer is yes and no. So we'll talk about the yes first. So yes, it was worth it because we took a car that didn't run, didn't drive, didn't stop, didn't do anything, and now it does all those things. It's a vehicle, again, it can be used, and it can go on to the next person to basically continue the restoration and continue to make it even nicer than it is. It wasn't worth it because this car had like 5 things that I've never dealt with before in any of the cars I've ever worked on. I have never had to replace all of the wiring in a car because of people hacking it up, because of people burning it up and just doing it completely wrong. I've never done, entire engine harness, an entire dash harness, an entire rear taillight harness, and then fix the front harness. I've never had to do that on any car. So that was a complete surprise. Did the previous owner know about that? Probably not, at least not to the extent that how hacked it really was. The other thing would be basically the suspension. I've never seen a car come in that needed all of it in such a dramatic way, as in all the rear suspension bushings were completely gone. I've never seen that before. And of course, we dealt with it. So was it worth it for me to do it? Yes. Now, here's the thing. It probably wouldn't have been worth it for somebody that didn't have a Corvette junkyard in their backyard to buy a car like this, because I was able to source, I would probably say 75% of the parts from there. And technically, I bought those cars, but I didn't, have to buy a brand new part from a Corvette vendor for a large amount of money. So, I had parts I could use. I saved a lot of money that way. For the novice, I don't think it would have been a good eBay buy to buy this car. I think somebody, if it was like their first vet or they've never worked on cars before and they bought this car, they would have get overwhelmed and they would have just, let it sit, and it just would have never happened. I know if this was my first Corvette back when I was, 19 years old and I had to redo the entirety of the harness, I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have, felt comfortable doing that. Same with, all the rear suspension, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it would have happened. So what do you guys think? Let's talk about it in the comments. Do you think it was worth it for me to have bought this car sight unseen? I'm definitely glad I'm the one who got it, because I feel like I did a fairly decent job on it and had the ability and the parts availability, you know, to get it to where it needed to be. So now it can be someone else's car and someone else's project. So again, if you're interested in it, let me know and we can go from there. So I do have quite a few videos coming. They might take a little while to get out, but yes, there will be more videos, another new project or another 7. So stay tuned, guys. Thanks for watching.